Yeah, so I think that copyright makes a certain amount of sense as a system for regulating interactions between big corporations or people who are doing something industrial with copyright. And that what we've usually, and I think that the law recognizes that too. Historically, what the law has said is that when you make a copy or when you make an exhibition or a performance, that triggers the regulation. And that's not a bad proxy for, historically for you or a company, right? Making a copy of a record or a film until pretty recently meant that you had a factory and some pretty expensive apparatus. And if you're going to go and spend $5 million outfitting your record duplicating plant, you can spend $500 on a lawyer to make sure that you do it right. But it no longer is that good proxy. I think that now the fact that someone is making a copy just means that they're a human being alive in the 21st century. And applying those rules that were extraordinary and applied to these rare industrial transactions to everyday life is very burdensome, and it just doesn't work. The answer so far from kind of the copyright maximalist side has been, let's educate the public more about copyright so they can stay on the right side of it. And I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think that there is enough education that you can do to explain copyright to 12-year-olds so that they don't fall afoul of it. Not least because Pam Samuelson, who's arguably the most foremost scholar of copyright in America and one of the most in the world, has said that the copyright law in America actually makes no sense, that if you read the 17 U.S.C., the statute, from beginning to end, it literally can't be parsed, and that no one really knows what American copyright law says, that it's been patched so many times since the 1976 Act that it's just a mishmash. So lawyers who train for years don't understand it, how are 12-year-olds going to understand it? So what I would love to see is a world in which all that stuff that people do that we really call culture, that borrowing, that fluidity, that remixing, that sharing, is governed by norms and is governed by rules that are appropriate to what we do in the public sphere, but not what we do as part of commerce, and that the stuff that looks like commerce gets regulated as commerce. One real danger of copyright rules as they stand today is that because copying is an integral part of everything we do on the network. I mean, you can think of the internet as the world's most perfect copying machine. It really is. And every time you click a mouse, the number of copies that are made is astronomical. When you load a web page in your browser, the kind of the statutory load that accompanies 3K of HTML is 900,000 pages of law. And the copies that are made between the server and you it's just gigantic. Now, everything we do on the internet involves copying, including all the other stuff, our civic engagement, our romantic engagement, our connections with our families, our education, our connection with the healthcare system, and all of those other things we do. Clay Shirky calls it the one wire that delivers freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom of assembly. When you allow copyright law to become the thing that drives the horse that drives that cart, you run the risk of curtailing all those other things in the name of preserving a copyright law. And nowhere do you see this better than in these three strikes proposals that we've seen on many international fronts. First, as part of the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement that the Obama administration is negotiating and won't disclose. The text of the treaty is being kept a secret. But also in the EU as part of the telecoms package. In France is the Hadopi law. In Italy, in Ireland, in Spain, and in the UK, all introduced separately in laws. And in Canada, there's a legal proposal for this. And the three strikes law says that if you're accused 3 times of infringing on copyright using the network, without any judicial oversight, without any proof, your network connection would be taken away. And Princeton professor Ed Felton compared this to if someone in your house was accused of infringing using text 3 times, that no one in your house would be allowed to read for a year. And we understand that that's wildly disproportionate. The network is actually even richer in terms of what it delivers to us than text on its own. And so I think that there's the real issue. It's not just about culture. It's about the entire public life of a 21st century person, a person in the information age, being held hostage by whether or not $300 million movies are being copied on the internet.